Hi everyone, my name is Harry, Head of Product here at Messente, and welcome to the second in our WhatsApp webinar series. The first was a few weeks ago and covered more of the why and the when to use the channel. If you've not seen that yet, do catch up on it. Lots of helpful tips about the use cases that we think really suits WhatsApp and when we recommend to use it. You'll find the link on our LinkedIn and it's on our YouTube channel, and we'll put it into the comments as well. Today, I'm going to take you through more of a practical how-to of the steps you needed to get set up to integrate WhatsApp, get ready to send. And we're planning on doing one more this year with more of a case study. So showcasing a real customer's experience, what they learned, what was that experience like, sharing that with you. Hopefully today we'll answer a lot of the questions you might have, but please let us know what else would be useful for you. Are there still questions you need answering? Are there areas that you're still not sure about? Let us know in the comments, email me afterwards, talk to account managers, whatever. We'd love to hear that feedback, and we'll do whatever we can to help you, whether it's new webinars, creating more support resources. We are here to help. I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes, and then we'll leave a good 15 minutes for questions that come up. And as ever, the recording will be shared to refer back to afterwards. So we've broken this down into stages, starting with the prerequisites that you need to have in place before you get started, how to set up and connect your WhatsApp account with your Messente account, how templates work with WhatsApp, and some last details needed to get in place before you can finally start sending. We've been quite thorough here. We're really going through all the steps, so don't feel this is sort of too overwhelming. A lot of it you've probably already got in place with SMS, but we're just making sure we cover off the nuances around WhatsApp as well. To get set up and started, it's probably a day's task, maybe no more than that. So it's really not quite as much as it looks, but we want to give you a really clear checklist by the end of the things to make sure that you've achieved. So let's start with those prerequisites. What are the things you need to have in place in order to get started? And the first one is going to be a Meta account. And the good news here is you've probably already got this. If you've got a Facebook page, if you use Instagram, if you do any sort of Facebook advertising, you will have a Meta account. The only thing you probably want to check is if you're not yet using any paid Meta services like advertising, you do need to make sure you've got a billing method set up. So Meta charge direct for the message costs, and there needs to be a billing method in place in order to charge you for that. So most of our customers find the accounts there, but do check that. To check it, go into the Meta portal, to your business home, into the top hamburger menu, and you'll see a couple of links there to billing and payments, and you can add a payment method there if it's not already there. Next one, phone numbers. So this is quite a difference with Viber, that unlike with that channel, every WhatsApp sender is linked to a unique phone number. So the first thing to think about is how you want to use senders and if you're going to need more than one. You may need multiple if, for instance, you're sending in a market, in a number of different markets, and you want to localize the language, contact details, maybe slightly different logos, slightly different services on offer, etc. So here is a real life example from Decathlon, where they've got different senders that they use within different countries. As you can see, they're connected to different local phone numbers, and there are slight differences then in the contact details, sending you off to local websites, and some of the other information about the business. So that's something you'll need to decide if that applies to you. And for each sender that you want, you'll need a different phone number. The phone numbers must be able to receive calls or SMS. This is really just for authenticating the phone number when you first sign up. So you don't need to receive lots of them. It's probably just one, but you do need some way of receiving an SMS or a call in order to authenticate. It can't be used with any other WhatsApp account. So if maybe you're already using WhatsApp business app, or you've got a personal business number that has a WhatsApp account to it, unfortunately, you can't use those. You need a clean number that isn't yet associated with any WhatsApp account. If you're using WhatsApp Business Platform, so the API with another provider, and you want to move that to Messente, that's fine. You can do the migration and move it across, but it just can't be in two places at once. The other thing to be aware of is when you first start, there's a maximum of 2 numbers that you can add. We'll talk a bit more about how scaling up works with WhatsApp later, but this is one of a number of areas where they start you quite small, but fairly quickly those limits will be lifted and you'll be able to add more numbers as you go on. In order to get those numbers, probably the easiest method is to talk to your existing business telco provider. So whoever provides business phones, devices and SIMs for you, see if you can just get another one added there. You'll have all the billing in one place. You know that number will stay live, and you know that's probably easy for most businesses. You could also just walk into a shop and buy pay-as-you-go SIM. That's fine. You'll need to put it into a device for that authentication method at least, and you'll also just need to make sure that some SIMs, you know, if you don't top them up, they could get cancelled and you could lose control over that number, and that could be a problem if you needed to re-authenticate it. So you'll just need to think about how you're going to keep that number live and available to re-authenticate if required in the future. And finally, we can also provide numbers in some markets. So if none of the other methods work for you, do talk to us and we can take you through the options for that. Last of the prerequisites then is opt-ins. Now, this is one of the areas where most of you will already have an opt-in strategy. You know, it's required for SMS. You know, it's good best practice generally, but it's something that I think it's worth emphasizing because WhatsApp really call it out very specifically within their business messaging policy. Anyone who's thinking about using WhatsApp for business messaging, you really must read the policy. It will take you through exactly what is allowed and what isn't allowed, what are the rules of the platform, if you like. So I would recommend having a good look at that. And then I've just pulled out the little snippet here about opt-ins and just what they're looking for. And they want it to be very, very clear that the person who's opting in, they're opting in to receive messages or calls, and that it's going to be on the channel WhatsApp specifically, and it must clearly state your business name as well, so they know who is going to contact them. Now, lots of ways of achieving that. If you've got an existing opt-in process, then updating that to include WhatsApp is probably the most straightforward. So whether that's a form a bit like this one, where you can check the channels that you're interested in being contacted on, and you could add WhatsApp to that. You could also add WhatsApp named on a more general privacy policy or communication policy, and cover it that way. Next, you could invite users to opt into WhatsApp, and you could use SMS for that. So you take your existing SMS database, let them know you've now got WhatsApp as an option, and send them a link to sign up and opt in to that. And then finally, you could create a whole new experience just for WhatsApp. And you might want to do this if you were going to take advantage of the channel's unique features to maybe create a new product. So it could be some sort of newsletter, some sort of regular offers, some way of hooking users in. You might then want to create a form on the website to sign up specifically to WhatsApp. You can also do things like generate QR codes. So that's a real one there. You can try scanning, and they will take the user straight into your channel on WhatsApp with a pre-canned message. So it could say something like, please start sending me messages, send, and then you could collect opt-ins that way. So lots and lots of options for these. Probably to start, you know, we'd recommend using whatever method you're comfortable and familiar with and have in place today. Good. So 3 things you need to get started: Meta account with its billing, phone numbers in place, and your opt-in strategy. We're now ready to actually create a WhatsApp account and connect it to Messente. To do this, log into the Messente dashboard. We've got the senders option on the left-hand side, and within there's a tile for WhatsApp. If you select that, you'll get a login to Facebook page where you can authenticate with your Facebook account. Read the permissions, make sure you're happy with the information that will be shared, and it will then show you the business portfolios that are connected with your Facebook account. So if there's more than one, choose the relevant one that you're interested in. Next, it'll then look at the WhatsApp accounts associated with that business. So if you've already got one that you want to use, you could choose that. And if you don't, then here's where you could create new. If you create new, it'll then ask you to give it a name and a display name, a category, and we'd also have to put in the phone number. In this case, I'm going to go back and reuse the one I've already got. So I've already got an account and number. Then it'll populate the names and categories I've used. And this is where the authentication step comes in. So this is the time that you need to be able to receive those incoming messages or calls, just in order to validate that you do own that number with Meta. Once you've done that step, complete the process, you'll be brought back into the Messente dashboard with a confirmation message, and your sender will now be added to your list of senders with a WhatsApp label on it. So that is now ready for you to use. You could now create a new API key if you wanted with it as a default sender, or you could just start to define that as a sender within the API. Just before we do with that, though, we need to understand templates and get some templates set up. On WhatsApp, all business conversations to a customer, whenever a business starts a conversation, it always must be with a template. Meta approves all of those templates. So every time you want to send a new message out to someone, it's got to be a template and it's got to be approved. 3 different types of these templates I'll take you through in a sec, and the pricing and features for each one vary depending on type. We support all of the WhatsApp template features except for one, which is flows, which is a sort of survey and form tool. We don't support that yet. Everything else you can do through Messente. So let's have a look at those types: utility, marketing, and authentication. Utility is any form of customer communication, so any form of order management, account management, alerts, updates, notifications, surveys, shipping notifications, any of that would all be counted as a utility message. Marketing is then anything promotional, so anything around raising awareness, maybe promoting an app, sales, short-term discounts, also more generally building customer relationships or retargeting, and also anything that's a kind of mixed use case. So if you've got a template that's part a utility conversation, but also includes some promotional content, that would get classified as a marketing template. And then finally, authentication. So this is about one-time passwords for identity verification. Let's now have a look at the process about how you actually create these templates. And to show you this, you come into the Meta portal to the WhatsApp Manager section within there. Within the WhatsApp Manager on the left, you've got a template section, and we'll start by looking at the templates library. So this is where you can see a number of pre-built templates for authentication and utility as inspiration and as a kind of quick way to get you started. This is also a good example of where I said the features vary depending on the template type. So if you choose an authentication template, one of the settings you get given is how do you want to deliver that code when it lands on the handset? And there's a number of options that you can choose there. That feature wouldn't apply to the other template types. If we continue, I could go back and also look at the utility messages. We could filter for different types. And again, you'll see a number of different ways that Meta recommend to use. I actually want to send a marketing message. So I'm going to come into my template library and click create. Here we then get to choose, am I looking to create marketing, utility, or authentication message? And so you can see what those look like, reminder of when to use them. Within marketing, you've got 3 sub options: custom, which will be the vast majority of templates you send out. Catalog can be used more for a kind of e-commerce use case, so having an actual catalog of products on WhatsApp that people can use and buy, and the flows feature that I mentioned. So let's choose custom and come into the builder. First thing, we need to give it a name, choose the language that we want to send it, and those will be used as the identifiers later when we come to reference this template within the Messente API. Next, we can give it a header. There's a few different options for that. You could give it a big bold title. You could put image, video content on. You could also use documents or even locations as the sort of header content to put on. I'm going to choose an image. You don't need to define the exact image up front, but they do want a sample for the approval process. So within the API, we'll actually define the image that we want to use, but you've got to give them just an example to show them the sort of thing that you're going to use. Next, we'll carry on to the body section. And here's, I'll paste in some content I've got. So promoting WhatsApp business messaging with Messente, with some features that I want users to understand. I could also put in a little footer comment there. So this is looking quite good, but now I'd like to personalize it a little bit. So rather than just saying hi, I'd like to include people's names. So here's where we can use variables. So I've added a variable. We get a little placeholder text that I'm going to put where I want the variable to show. And just like with the image, we've got to give Meta a sample so they understand how we're going to use that. So I'm going to use it for names to make it feel a bit more personalized. Then we've got an offer, and I'm sad to say this is not a real offer. This is just for demonstration purposes, although I'm sure our salespeople are feeling very generous at the moment. But here's where we could personalize again and maybe give people different offers depending on their relationship with us. So I could use a placeholder for that as well. Next, we're going to include some buttons. So lots of options for different types of button you can include. There are quick reply buttons, which are ways of having a pre-canned response. So when they click the button, it'll load a response in and the user can just hit send. Meta will recommend you use that for as an opt-out technique. So if you choose that, it'll give us a button with button text, stop promotions, and you can then, when the user taps that, it'll then send a message like that to your user. Now, you don't have to use that. You could also use a web link button as another way of managing opt-out. So here I'm going to use a visit website button, give it the text unsubscribe. I'm going to paste in a URL to my unsubscribe link so that this time when they click that, it'll then open up a web page with the unsubscribe page in it. Then I want to add a couple more. So maybe another website button to show the user where to go and find out more. So we've got them interested in my engaging content. Let's give them a website to go and find out more information. And also, if they really want to get straight onto us, talk to our sales team, they can have a phone button as well. So talk to us. I'm going to put in the phone number and the country code, and that button would then be configured. Once we've inputted all that information, we're happy with what the template looks like. Give it a good check over. We can then submit that for review. The review process, Meta warn, can take up to 24 hours. In our experience, it hasn't taken anything like that. It's been more like a few minutes. It seems to be highly automated. And as long as the content isn't being flagged for any reason, probably infringing with the business policy we mentioned, it's very likely to be approved very, very quickly. Your experience may vary, so we should warn you that they do say it could take up to 24 hours. The other limitation around reviews is if you want to make changes to a template, you are restricted about how many templates you can make a day. So it's 1 or 2 changes, and after that, it'll be locked until the next day. So if you are making changes, try and make sure you get them all done first time and don't forget anything. Otherwise, you might have to wait a little while before you can send those again. Final thought I'd say on the template builder is the tool is very guided. It takes you through and shows you exactly what is allowed, what isn't allowed. The options are pretty clear. So we found building templates has been quite an easy process. It's very quick to add them and get them approved and ready to use. So really, I wouldn't see this as a barrier, but start playing with it and you'll quickly get familiar with it and understand how that works. Okay, so we've now got our WhatsApp account ready to go. We've got our templates set up. Our messages are designed and ready to send to our users. Just the last few details to sort out, and then we'll be ready to send. So the first one is, I mentioned earlier about how there's a restriction on the number of phone numbers you can have when you first start. There's the same sort of restriction in terms of the number of messages you can send out. So you can't just sign up to WhatsApp and immediately start sending millions and millions of messages out. You have to go through an incremental scale-up process, starting at 250 conversations in 24 hours per phone number. That then steps up to 1,000, then 10,000, 100,000, and finally unlimited. And really, this is a control that Meta have put in place to try and protect the platform, make sure their users have a good experience, make sure it's not being used for spammy content or anything that's going to impact their reputation. It's actually also really represents the sort of approach that we would recommend you took anyway, of starting with quite low volume to test the platform, get to know it better, test the reaction with your users, and gradually scale up as confidence builds. So it shouldn't be a huge limitation, and it doesn't seem to take very long to scale up, and is a good opportunity to test. Here's an example Meta provide in terms of how long that process might take. So this is a company that over 4 days scale up to 10,000 messages that they're able to start sending. So it's definitely not a process of months and months and months, as long as you follow the guidelines they provide. 3 big things you can do to make this process go quickly. One, complete the business verification process. So you'll see this button within the Meta portal. It's just them asking for a little bit more information about the business, so they understand you and are able to judge sort of risk and adherence to their policy better. Very, very quick, half an hour job, and you should be able to complete that. And that's a big check in the box. Next one is you do actually have to use it. So you do need to start send up to your limits, start giving them data to, again, assess whether they're happy to increase, and then ensure quality is high. And I think it's worth, we're just going to take a couple of slides just to talk a bit about what Meta mean by quality and what impact that can have. Meta really have 2 main ways of judging quality. The first is user reactions, and this is the most direct metric probably. So this is using some of the features you can see on the right within the Meta app that are available to users. So when users block a business, report spam, mute conversations, these actions are all strong signals that the messages might be low quality. Next, they've got engagement metrics. So positive interactions they see as users responding to your messages or viewing them and opening them. Less favorable ones might be ignored messages where they're not opened. High rates of unsubscription could then signal, again, quality issues. So they'll then use an algorithm that takes all these different signals and will then give you a quality score based on those of high, medium, or low, depending on what those signals are saying to them. Few best practices you can follow to try and ensure your quality stays up and give you the best chance of not being rated low. 1, make sure you follow the WhatsApp business policy. That has been designed to communicate to you what they consider suitable use of the platform. So as long as you're following that, you shouldn't have too many problems. That includes only sending to users who've opted in. So again, that's sending off surprising users with communications on a platform they haven't asked for could be a way of being blocked and being scored more lowly. And then I think a bit about the content. So make sure the messages are highly personalized, make sure they're useful, make sure you don't send too many, and the messages aren't too long. Just as with any other channel, all of those things could lead to more unsubscribes, more of those more negative signals for Meta. So I think really the message is to be mindful of the additional power the user has within this channel because of those features within the app. And therefore, it might just need to think a little bit more about the content that's going out. Again, so far with our customers, we've not particularly had a problem with this, but it is just something to be aware of. To keep an eye on quality, you've got scores shown to you within the Meta portal. So you get a summary for each phone number that will show you the current quality rating and also your current messaging limit. And then you can also see quality per template. So you can see if there's one particular template that's causing problems. Summary around scaling then is understand it's an initial limitation, but it should live quite quickly with sensible use. Use our fallbacks within the Messente API to default back to SMS when you hit your limits. So that way you're not having to, you can send up to your limits and then just fall back to SMS without a great deal of problem. So do use that feature. Follow the tips outlined and in particular, monitor and think about quality. Okay, we're nearly there. Final detail, replies and opt-outs. Just as with opt-ins, that you probably already have a strategy with this. The one real difference with WhatsApp over SMS is that two-way cannot be disabled. So it is by design a two-way conversational platform, and therefore you need to think about how you're going to manage that. The policy does require you to respond to any user that messages you within 24 hours. However, auto replies are absolutely fine. So it does not require a big operational change. You do not need to have lots of support people set up to be messaging on WhatsApp, but you just need to make sure they've got some sort of message so they don't feel ignored. That message can also direct them to alternative communications channels, and you could also use your WhatsApp profile to also send people to alternative channels to try and reduce the chance of them replying to you in the first place. Secondly, you then also got to respect opt-outs. So it's worth having some sort of monitoring of the replies coming in to look for opt-outs, but also potentially directing people to unsubscribe links as a preferred route to opt-out, and maybe as being an easier way to manage. So let's look at an example of how this could work. And I'm going to send a message to that marketing demo template I created earlier. I'm going to use the variables that we defined to choose the image and insert the name of the customer and click send on that. That will then give me a response back on the API, and the message will land in my inbox. I can then have a look at that message. I can expand to read all the content, zoom in on the image that's been provided, and then I've got my action buttons at the bottom. First up is unsubscribe. So here's where I've actually used the Messente subscription API, which gives you a form UI that you can either use for collecting numbers, collecting subscriptions, or in this case, I'm using it for unsubscribes. So in this configuration, anybody who puts a number in there, that number will be blacklisted within the phone book, and then they won't receive content through Messente again. So that could be a good option for you. Equally, if you've already got an unsubscribe page, you could send them to that as well. If we then go back to our message, as I said, two-way can't be disabled, so this user could still send a message. So what I've done for that instance is configure an auto reply. So they'll then get a message coming back to them, essentially saying, thank you very much for contacting us. We don't monitor this channel, but here's another way of getting in contact that we do. So those sort of approaches are absolutely fine with WhatsApp and can work very well. Great. So we've done all the steps in order to get ready, and now we're ready to start sending. Once you start sending content out, you'll find that all the normal features within the Messente dashboard now support WhatsApp. So the statistics section now has lines for WhatsApp, so you can monitor volumes on that channel. Errors come into the history tab and the statistics tab in the same way, and you can also see the inbound messages just as you can with any other channel. Just as with Viber, for those of you already using that, as well as a delivered status, you now also see a seen status. So if the user actually opens the message and looks at it, then that will display as seen. So this is one of the many advantages of these rich channels, is much more visibility into how customers are interacting with your messages. You've also got some analytics within the WhatsApp manager within the Meta portal. So within there, you can keep track of your Meta costs, and you can also see by volumes by template type. And that's all the steps. So as I've said, we've broken it down to it in quite a granular way because we wanted to give you as complete a checklist as we could of what you need in order to get started. Please don't be put off by the list. A lot of things I suspect you will already have in place, and they don't take very long. You know, it is maybe, you know, it's a few days to get yourself started for a lot of businesses. Just before we move on to the questions, I did just want to share a little bit about our roadmap with us. So this is a great milestone for us in terms of improving the rich capabilities from Messente, but you know, we don't want to stop here, and there's quite a roadmap of additional features that we're working on. So we've currently got a basic RBM trial going up in Spain. We're looking to expand that to a full RBM trial within a single market, probably Germany next year, and then likely more markets after that. So if you're interested in RBM, particularly in those markets, we'd love to hear from you. Please talk to support or your account manager. We're also looking at extending WhatsApp from just being an API feature to also being a dashboard feature. So there'll be a tool within the dashboard, just like Viber and SMS, where you can send messages directly out from there. And we're also looking to add support for not just template messages, but also more free text messages that you can use for replying. So if you want to start engaging with two-way conversations with users, you'll be able to do that. But I'd love to know what you think. So please use the email shown there at the top. If you haven't yet completed it, please have a look at the survey that we sent out a couple of weeks back and let us know what's been holding you back. What else could we do to make your life easier? What are the features that would have real impact to your business? The feedback is incredibly useful and we really do listen to it. So please do talk to us. Please do let us know. Last thing then is how to find out more, where to go next. So as I said, please talk to your account manager, talk to support, talk to me. We'd all be delighted to help answer any final questions, help you get over the line to start using the channel. Use our documentation. So the knowledge base now has a WhatsApp section in it, the setup guides in there. Follow the steps I've outlined in this webinar, and we'll take you through it and another good checklist. They also include links directly to the right place within the Meta portal. So if you're struggling to navigate the Meta portal, then that's really helpful just to make sure you're going to the right page to do whatever it is you need to do for that step. We've also got our YouTube channel there. We're putting out more videos, more explainers about rich channels and also other features. So hopefully that's a useful resource as well. And finally, start setting it up and give it a go. You know, even if it's not yet at full production volume, start to understand the channel, start to learn how you could use it better and how you could apply it. And again, we'd love to advise and love to hear how you get on. Great. Well, I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's answered some questions for you. But I'll now take some questions if there are any in the comments or from the audience. And Tara, have you got any questions there? What are the biggest mistakes businesses can make when setting up WhatsApp for the first time? How can we avoid them? I guess not following all the steps. You know, there are the checklist is kind of there for a reason. There are quite a few things to do, and maybe unlike SMS where we can do more for you, you know, some of it is more reliant on you. But I think beyond just the logistics, I think the next thing is to really think about it as a new channel. I think if you just go into it thinking we're just going to do exactly what we've done before, that's when you might run into problems. It is worth thinking about how the two-way feature is going to affect you, how you can best make use of the new rich features within there. And I think if you really sit down and think about this is a bit different, we need to think about it differently, I think that's where you'll see the best results. If a user is unsubscribed from a WhatsApp message, how can she resubscribe? Basically, I think they would have to go back through the opt-in process. So this will be a little bit dependent on exactly how do you run your opt-in and opt-out processes. But from the WhatsApp policy, if they've opted out, they would then need to opt back in using whatever process that you've put in place. Do I need to ask for an opt-in from users who've already accepted communication via SMS and email? Yes, unfortunately you do. So this is what they state quite clearly within their policy, that it must be an opt-in specifically for WhatsApp. But as we said, there are different ways of doing that. So you could ask them, you know, whilst they're maybe doing another kind of account management step, to also agree to WhatsApp being included. Maybe you do an update to your terms and conditions. Maybe you send them you know, an invite. But there will need to be a specific opt-in for WhatsApp. Yeah. Any more? And Tara, is that cover all of the questions?
Yes, that's all for now. So if anybody has something else, then let us know. If not, then we can take it to the end.
Perfect. Okay. Well, hopefully we did manage to answer a lot of the questions within there. As you think of things, please do contact us. You know, we'd love to chat to you about it. We'd love to help wherever we can. This is why we exist, is to help our customers get the best out of their business messaging and help them get the best strategy. So contact your account manager, talk to support, talk to me. We will do what we can to help. Thank you very much for your time, and please look out for the next webinar a little bit later in the year.